Horace Cooper on the line with us, conservative commentator, attorney, senior fellow with the National Center for Public Policy Research. Nationalcenter.org is the website. Horace, welcome to the program.
Hey, Tom. Great to be on the radio show.
Thank you. I'm looking at a paper that was published by Stanford University, their Center for Education Policy Analysis. You're probably familiar with this. It's called Race, Income, and Enrollment Patterns in Highly Selective Colleges. And it looks at a period from 82 to 2004, which is, 18 years, I guess. And what they found was that over time, the disparity between white and black students, or Caucasian and African American, or whatever you want to say, that during that period of time, students graduating from high school graduates of both races, that disparity was getting smaller and smaller and smaller. And in states that had affirmative action programs, that disparity at college levels was getting smaller and smaller. But once states did away with their affirmative action programs, specifically California and Texas, that the gap in college widened. In fact, they say, importantly, the growing racial enrollment disparities evident in figures 3 through 5 are not a result of widening academic achievement disparities between white students and black and Hispanic students. Indeed, the black-white achievement gap among the high achievement students, this is the 90th quintile, narrowed from the class of 92 to the class 82 to 92 and continued to narrow till 2004. So what's going on? Why is it that our colleges, when we do away with affirmative action programs, start reducing the number of people of color who are enrolled, even though they're qualified? Well,
first of all, correlation is not causation. There are a number of other things that have been going on simultaneously during that 18-year period, problems that have continued on through now. There is still a problem with families and households that aren't functioning properly in too many inner cities. There are significant numbers.
That has nothing to do with the difference between high school graduation outcomes and college enrollment, Horace.
Absolutely it does. There are quite a few studies that show, regardless of race, the stability of the family has a significant outcome based on those who are graduating and whether or not they continue on to college or whether they complete their college careers.
Then how is it that, are you suggesting that in those states that have abandoned affirmative action, and by the way, we're talking about this because the Supreme Court is going to be hearing this, and your group, your organization, and please remind me the name of it. I'm sorry, I don't have it on my...
the National Center for Public Policy.
National Center,
Project
right.
21.
Yeah, Project 21. That's what I was thinking of. Is filed an amicus brief with the Supreme Court on this. The Fisher versus University of Texas. Fisher is a white woman who is claiming discrimination, although she was not in the top 10% of high school graduates, and there is no affirmative action among the top 10%. Period. And so I don't get it, but in any case.
Texas has an automatic admission policy, as you were just mentioning, for those in the top 10%. You go to any high school in the state. I'm a graduate of Texas High School, and if you're in that top 10%, you're automatically admitted, but then they also admit people under other bases, some based on their SAT scores, other performance indices while you're in high school, recommendations. And after the Grutter decision in Michigan, the University of Texas decided that they were going to engage in what they called a holistic admissions process, and they were going to include race as a component. And yes, we at Project 21 oppose the utilization of race as one of the components. Poor people, people with special skills, people with other talents and backgrounds should be equally able to compete in that holistic process and not have the skin color be one factor that weighs against them.
When we have a 500-year history of skin color being a factor that weighs against people in this country?
Well,
you think you're going to solve 500 years of that? I mean, how long has it been, Horace? I believe that you're old enough to remember, murders in the South. I certainly am.
Well, you got me by a little, but my parents talked to me about it. I grew up in the state of Texas, and after I am a product of the post-Civil War era, civil rights era, rather.
Okay.
Civil War would be a long time. And as a person who has seen all of these dynamic changes, I am quite keen to have the courts continue to argue that you ought to tie whatever remedies that you're going to use to deal with race as close as possible to actual specific violations of specific individuals.
Do you believe, Horace, that when George W. Bush got a special affirmative action ability to enter into both Harvard and Yale, specifically Yale, because his father went there, and then Harvard went after his father made a large donation. But do you think that kind of affirmative action program where the children of alumni should be continued?
Oh, I'm a huge booster of the idea that people ought to be able to contribute in a variety of ways to show their value, and a $500,000 or even $1 million contribution benefits all the students. But the idea that the pigmentation ought to be a factor. So in an America
where the average wealth of a white family in this country is around $87,000, and the average wealth of an African-American family in this country is a little less than $5,000, you're in favor of college admissions based on how much money somebody gives a college?
Everybody benefits at the campus when people contribute. I try to give to my alma mater. They recruit quite a few people, and it's precisely because they understand that those resources are turned back in and are beneficial to the next generation that comes along.
But should that be a deciding factor in whether their kids are let into school?
If it's big enough, sure, absolutely. Someone being able to see to it that we get a new building, someone to be able to see to it that we get 6 new prize-winning professors, absolutely.
So the millionaires and billionaires are of tremendous value to our society, but somebody who is a person of color is not?
No, the issue is the pigmentation is such a terrible basis for making any kind of governmental or private sector decisions. We want to be as careful as possible whenever we see it happening, and we want to have it narrowly tailored to respond to specific events
Horace,
and individuals.
You're African American. Are you arguing to me that we now live in a colorblind society? Are you genuinely trying to make that argument?
I'm making the argument that our Constitution is a valid document to make sure that we manage how we treat people.
Our Constitution was written by people who owned slaves.
We have so abused race in the past, we should be very careful about the potential of abusing it in the present.
So back to my question. Are you seriously suggesting to me that we live in a colorblind society? Do you think that if you or I were walking down the same street and in random places in various parts of Manhattan, that we would be treated identically, whether it's with regard to a cop or a taxi driver or somebody responding to us as walking by on the street?
Well, I can't guarantee how every American is going to treat every person based on their color of their skin, but I can tell you this. You're going to have a hard time convincing me that the admissions programs at colleges, that professors generally, or the administrators of these programs are engaging in some subtle form of racism and actively trying to hold
I'm not just
back.
talking about racism. I'm talking about basically white privilege. Are you denying that white privilege exists in this society?
I am denying that administrators at college campuses, when they are carrying out their retention and recruitment techniques, that they are in any way trying to prevent minorities from participating. That's just not true.
Then why is that the result? Why is it that this Stanford study looks at 18 years of this?
I tried to tell you that there are a number of other things that are happening.
Only in those states where they do away with affirmative action do we see this huge disparity start opening up. And it's not because these African-American kids are graduating lower in their class than the white kids. They're just not getting into college.
I thought I heard the music, but I'm prepared to comment.
Yeah. Okay. Quickly, you got 10 seconds.
Okay. Well, anyway, there are a host of issues.
Other
family
factors.
Stability, the school's funding, the quality of the
hang
teachers.
Horace. Hang on.
This is the Thom Hartmann Program.
That guy always steps on us. NationalCenter.org is the website. You can read Horace's writings over there. Horace Cooper, thank you for dropping by today.
Tom, thanks for having me on. I appreciate it.
Speaking.